Welcome, everybody. So excited to see everybody join in. Whether it's the first time you're with us or you've been in the other sessions as well, welcome. If you know the drill, let us know in the chat where you're chiming in for. We'd love to hear where everybody is, if we should wish you a good morning or a good evening. So yeah, drop a quick hi in the chat. It should be open for everybody. Hi, Leila. Hi, nice to see you again. We have people from Lincoln, Nebraska, Boston, Chicago, a lot of US I see this time. So that's good. So good morning to everybody. Curious if there's anybody also in Europe. But yes. Oh, so somebody's also in the evening. Cool. While we're waiting for everybody to settle in, oh, Portugal, amazing. So while we're waiting for everybody to settle in, let me start with the admin part. So we just get it out of the way. As you know, you have access to the chat and the Q&A section to ask us anything during the presentation and the webinar today. And there will be a recording that will be available after we wrap up. So if your colleagues couldn't attend or you have to drop off a bit earlier, there will be the recording available. Now, as I hope most of you know, we're gathered here today for the final session in our 5-series masterclass on social media analytics. I'm Noah from Planable. Planable is a social media scheduling tool. And if you you might not know, but we just recently launched analytics in our tool, which is kind of what prompted this series. We know there's a lot of questions around analytics and data. There's so much information out there. So we thought we would break it down on different topics and tackle each one. We talked previously about social media metrics, benchmarking, top posts, and reporting. And all sessions are available. So if you registered for this session, you will be able to see previous ones as well. So you get the full picture. But since we launched analytics in our platform, we thought we would end the masterclass with a bit of insight of how do actually social media tools handle analytics. How do we get the data? What do we show? Kind of let you in, behind the curtains of how it all works. As I mentioned, this is fairly recent and new for us as well. So we're learning as we go. We might not have all the answers, but we definitely encounter some interesting scenarios that we want to uncover today. And be here to hopefully answer any questions you might have. So without further ado, we brought our very own CTO, Nick, here. And what he'll do is he'll walk us through a quick presentation about, again, how do social media tools work? How are we getting those analytics? Some of the situations that we've been facing and that all tools are facing. So this is not, specific just to Planable. It's basically how it all works. He'll go over his presentation. We'll obviously have a time for Q&A, and we'll wrap things up with a quick tour of how analytics looks like in Planable. So if you haven't had a chance to give it a go, we'll walk you through it at the end. So to wrap things up, because I know some people have joined while I was doing my quick intro, we'll be getting started with the presentation. The Q&A and chat section are open for you, so feel free to put in your questions or suggestions, and there will be a recording available afterwards. All right, so without further ado, I'll hand it over to Nick here, and we'll start with our presentation.
All right, just 1 second. All right.
Perfect.
All right, so I'm Nick. I'm the founder and CTO of Planable, and I've been building Planable for the last 8 years. So as you know, we are primarily a scheduling and planning tool for social media content, and we are focused mostly on agencies and team collaboration. But recently, we embarked on this journey to build analytics in our platform, in our tool, and I just wanted to share with you some of the insights and some of the struggles we've been through to build intuitive and nice dashboard for your analytics needs. And the most kind of common question we have about analytics is how do we get the data, and why the data is different from third-party applications and the native dashboards from Meta or from the platforms themselves. So basically, how do we get the data from the platform? It is through the API. Some of you might have heard about APIs and what an API means. So I'm gonna try to explain what an API is with some analogies. Well, API is kind of a glue that sticks apps together. So it's a way for Planable or for other apps to communicate with the platforms themselves, with Facebook, with Instagram, with Twitter. So it's a way that we communicate like in two ways, two-way communication we have with this platform. So we exchange data, we make requests, for example, to publish a post. But recently, we do a lot of requests to gather the data, right? To gather the post performance data and the page performance data, right? So like a good analogy would be to compare an API with a waiter. So imagine that Facebook or Meta is a sort of a restaurant, and the waiter is the API, right? And when you go to the restaurant, you make a request to the waiter, right? You need some data. So they have a catalog, like each API has some sort of documentation. It's sort of like the menu of the restaurant. And you make some orders, right? And the waiter, the API, takes your orders and sends them to the kitchen, which is the kind of the back end of the systems, from these platforms that process your request, right? Your exact order, and then the waiter brings back your kind of request, the meal back to you, and that's how you get basically what you want. Now, the problem is that we are kind of limited only by what's on the menu, right? We can't really get everything we want, and the platforms themselves, they have the entire kitchen, right? And they can basically cook something that's not on the menu, right? And then we don't have access to some like very detailed things or very specific exclusive requests, right? So that's how we work with the platforms via API, and they do have limitations, as I told you. For example, not all the data is shared, right? There's some specific metrics, right? Like the total reach, I will explain to you further, or interaction metrics on Rails, link clicks. You might not see that kind of data in our dashboard because we actually don't have a way to get those kind of data in from platforms, right? And each platform has different kinds of limitations. They don't share kind of all the data that is available on their end. And then there's other limitations in terms of historical data, right? We can't fetch, for example, years of data. So you can look back into, um, like 3 years ago, like 3 years time or something like that. Different platforms have different limitations. For example, Facebook gives us 2 years of data, and we in Planable actually right now show you just 1 year of data because we need to do a comparison on how on basically if on the trend, if it's increasing or is decreasing. So we need to kind of have 2 years of data. So we have this comparison showed in our dashboard. On other platforms like TikTok, we only have 2 months of data. So really, it's kind of limited, but as long as as soon as you connect your page, your TikTok page in Planable, you'll get ongoing from the date you connect your page, you'll get the data forward. And also the granularity. Some of the data in Facebook, for example, is super granular. For example, audience insights, you get basically the data showed in different formats, like the source of engagement and everything. But in like the API provides us with very limited data in terms of granularity. So yes, so that's basically why we usually show like a bit more limited insights. And also there's a problem with new features. Facebook and others, and Instagram and TikTok, they all launch new formats, new features, new ways to interact with content, and usually those are not available immediately in the API. But they are available usually in the dashboard, in their analytics dashboard, in their business suite as well. But it takes a few months for them to to appear in the API and in the menu catalog, basically. So yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to kind of piggyback on the restaurant analogy. I think it's like, they're experimenting with new recipes in their kitchen, but it takes a while until it's available on the menu for everybody to test. So yeah, I think that's how new features are. They, although they're available right away on the platforms and you can get data, it takes a second for them to update the documentation. And it's, we don't really know when they're gonna have it available through the API. So yeah. But yeah, taste tasting. Yes, Alicia, that's really a really great way to put it. I hope everybody else is loving the restaurant analogy and is not getting too hungry. But yeah. All right, Nick. So we can move on.
All right. So just a second. All right. So let's go through some of the biggest challenges we have in terms of metrics, and so we've been working really hard to kind of make sure that we have the most accurate data in Planable, and that is showed in the native dashboards, right? So the same metrics you see in Planable, you will see in your business dashboard and Facebook, and in other platforms. And yeah, there's been a challenge because when we make the request, right, to the kitchen, to the API, we get some data, and then we put it all together, we show it in the dashboard, and the numbers are like different, and then we start looking, right? One example is with reach, right? Reach is like a really important metric for marketers. So you want to know how many unique users seen your content. on Instagram, for example. And yeah, and Facebook, no, Instagram actually gives you the rich data, but it gives you in a kind of a different way that is actually shown in the dashboard itself. So it gives you a kind of a rich metric per day. So you can, for each day in the calendar, you can get a rich number, like how many accounts have been reached with your content, or per post. So you can see each post, how many accounts, unique users have seen the content. But then when you want to look some in a like on a time period, right? You wanna see a graph like of how many unique users have interacted with your content or seen your content. You can't really do that because if you sum up these numbers that we get, like the daily numbers, you will get like wildly different metrics, usually a lot bigger than we see in the Facebook dashboard. And that because we only have the unique users per day. And if we sum up kind of the metrics, we don't get new users every day. Some of the users that see the content, they might have seen it yesterday and the day before, and there's no kind of way to get the unique actual number through the API at this point. And that's been kind of a struggle, and we've been looking like how to solve this. And basically, we've been looking at some how other tools are solving this issue, and well, basically, some of them try to approximate this number. So they take the post reach and the daily reach, and they apply some formulas or coefficients and try to make up a number that's somehow closely related to the actual number you'll see in the dashboard, but it will never be precise. Also, sometimes some of the other third-party solutions we've seen are kind of renaming the metric, the reach metric, into some sort of like daily reach or something similar. Yeah, basically they are summing up the daily numbers, but they are not naming it the same like reach as you see in the native dashboards. And but some of them, especially the bigger ones, don't show this metric altogether, as it's not precise and probably not useful to see it in a daily reach format. So they don't show it anywhere in their interface, in reports as well. So yeah, that's been the biggest struggle so far. And some other insights from our journey to make the data as accurate as possible was we've encountered issues of time zone. So basically, we show the data. So when we kind of request the data from Facebook, for example, we get the numbers per specific interval, right? 24 hours in a specific time zone. It's usually the default like Greenwich time zone, GMT 0 or something like that. But in Planable, we usually show the post and everything with the local time zone you have on your computer. And then there's some mismatches that happen, and this is hard to kind of debug usually. Also, we've encountered a lot of kind of bugs in the API. Some, some weird things happening in the kitchen or something. And for some days, for example, we don't receive data at all. And then it kind of skews our graphs when we show them in Planable. And when we sum up the numbers, we might miss a few a few digits or something like that. And then yeah, that's also kind of been an interesting kind of journey to spot these issues. Also, one of other challenges we had is how do we define the metrics and how do the platforms themselves define the metrics. So we try to be as close as possible to the platform, but we've seen other third-party tools define it differently. I will give you an example in the next slide about the engagement. And also there's the issue of limited data. We don't have all the data that the kitchen or the platforms have available, all the ingredients, right? And yeah, the interesting one is working with engagement. So how do we count engagement basically? So usually how it happens is we sum up the comment shares and reactions. Yeah, this is kind of the classic formula, but others prefer it differently. For example, assigning some sort of weight to each engagement. For example, comments count more than reactions, right? So they want some sort of custom formula, and some tools and some platforms actually have a kind of a different formula to measure engagement. So you have a different score. And for example, one peculiar thing we had on LinkedIn is that we uncovered that LinkedIn counts page follows as engagement. So it adds up. If you're someone followed your page, this counts as an engagement in that particular day, and that's how we found out basically why our numbers, because we tried to sum up, just the comment shares and reactions on LinkedIn posts, and then the numbers were different, and we found out that they also count engagement in their dashboard. They include page follows as engagement. Yeah, so also there's an issue with stories. We've tried to work with stories, so you can publish stories from Planable directly, and there's a way to get the insights with the API. But stories are, a bit different than posts, so they kind of vanish after 24 hours, and the only way for us to get the data is to make requests in these 24 hours to get the data. And that means we can't really get the historical data. For example, when you connect your page to Planable, we can't really get the stories that you published a month ago or something like that. As also, we found that some of the data is limited by location. So, for example, interactions on stories or replies made in Europe or Japan are not shown or are not basically given to us via API, and that also might cause some confusion, right? You might have different numbers in Planable and in Instagram business dashboard, for example. Yeah, and there's also might be a mismatch with number of posts. So we also have this metric of number of posts in Planable, and we usually show just the post published for Planable and the posts that we've been able to sync with the platforms, but Facebook also counts the ads as posts, and other there might be other posts that we currently don't post formats, but we currently don't support in Planable, so we don't sync those up, and the numbers might be different than of the total published posts. Yeah, so basically the conclusion we've got from so far, the insights we've got from working with the APIs and then kind of integrating in analytics and Planable is basically that native platforms and solutions, the third-party solutions that work with the API work a bit differently. They might show you a bit different data. So it's kind of hard to compare them. It's usually better to compare just the third-party solutions themselves. And yeah, I mean, we all have the same waiter at the restaurant, and we all have kind of the same limitations when presenting you the analytics data. And yeah, if you have any questions.
Thank you so much. Would love to hear if anybody has any questions. I see some of them are already coming in. So, Q&A, chat. I'll go through them in a second. I think I just wanted to kind of go over that conclusion. Yeah, the idea is that through all the information that we went through, we know two things for certain. One thing we know for certain is that the native platforms versus what they offer through the API is going to be a bit different. It's going to have different type of data that we get. So it's very unlikely you can 100% get exactly the same results as you would get on native platforms. And then when it comes to the different tools, so like Planable and any other third-party app, because there's missing data, we have to come up with different artifacts, different formulas, like Nick mentioned. What do you consider engagement and so on? And that's a business decision, if you will, for each particular platform. So again, that can lead to different data if you're comparing one third-party app to the other. So the conclusion that we wanted to share today is that the best way to move forward with analytics and what we mean by comparing apples to apples is if you have a tool that you're using for analytics, just look into that tool and compare, like check your trends and your growth in that tool and like see, because the formula is going to be the same every week, every month. So it's still going to be accurate whether you grew or not inside that tool. But if you do look at the tool versus the platform, the native platform, or the tool versus another tool, it's expected that there's going to be a difference, and that can kind of skew your view and your results. And it just honestly, I think, can bring headache when you don't need it to. So kind of sticking to the one tool that you're choosing, or the native platform, whatever solution you have for data and analytics, just stick to it and kind of, look for the trends and the evolution of your post and page data in one single place. All right. I hope that helps and sheds a bit of clarity. And now we'll move on to some of the questions. All right. I love that they're diving in. So in no particular order, honestly, I'll start with one that was just in the middle. So there's one question about, can we share any insights into future updates or enhancements planned for the API that could impact analytics capabilities? I'll start and then give it over to Nick. But in terms of the API that comes from the platforms, we don't control it. Like, we don't have access in the kitchen to know what they're going to put on the menu. And I'm really sorry if you're getting sick of this analogy, but Nick, help me out if you want to add something.
Yeah. So as Noah said, we don't have control over it, but the APIs do evolve over time, and there's new updates every month. There's new features available via API, so we can get more data, sometimes less data. They also remove some of the access for us, but yeah, we do evolve. There's new things possible via API, which we do try to keep up to add those features to Planable as well.
All right. We have a question. Again, I'm just going to go through them. Sarah asks about exporting page post insights from Facebook. If there's a way we can explain how to do this, I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure because Facebook has done a lot of changes, and it's a bit different. Like, the interface that users have in Facebook and Meta Business Suite and whatever it's called nowadays is one thing. And then the API itself is sort of like code, I guess, pieces of code. This is where I'm not as sure, but yeah, it's not, we don't, when we get the information, we don't see it like in a dashboard as the end user sees it. So unfortunately, I'm sorry that we can really help with getting the data directly from Facebook. But Nick, maybe you can add a bit. We do get some page insights from Facebook, if I'm not mistaken, right? We do get some information about the overall page insights. Maybe you can talk a bit about what sort of data we get if you have it handy.
Yeah, yeah. So we get two types of data, right, from the API. So we get the page metrics, basically impressions and engagement and per each day, kind of, and we also get the post metrics. So we do show you post insights in Planable. Um, but at this point we don't show audience data, so we don't yet show best times to post or this kind of data, but we really plan to add it soon in Planable. Yeah, yeah, we don't have this part. We just for now we only have page and post metrics, the
But if
general.
I can, yeah, sorry, if I can add one thing, I think one of the advantages of third-party apps in general is that with the API, like we really strive to make it as easy and as simple to find data. So, and we'll go over a quick demo, as I mentioned, in Planable in just a couple of minutes, because I know one of the complaints people have for native platforms and especially Meta is that they've been changing where you can find the data like every month, it seems like. Obviously not as often, but that's what it feels like. And obviously Meta has all of these features that that they have. And so what we really strive for is that the data that we do have access to show you, we try to show it in a very easy way so that you can have a nice way to access it. There's another question. It's not really about analytics, but I'm happy to answer it. It's something that we receive often on support. It's a question about adding personal Facebook accounts and personal Instagram accounts in Planable. But again, this applies to all third-party apps. So one thing that I think would be good to clarify, like obviously today we talked about analytics, that was the main topic. But when Nick was talking about the API, that's what we use for any type of feature that has. So that includes scheduling and publishing and connecting pages and so on. So it's the exact same thing. We have a menu, which is only part of the kitchen. We don't have access to everything. So that's why sometimes our hands are tied. So in this particular case, first of all, Facebook personal profiles have been discontinued. Oh my God, it's been 6 years now, I think. A long time ago. So Facebook decided that they no longer want to give access for third-party tools to be able to connect to personal profiles. And very similar to Instagram, we don't know the reason why, but the only way to publish content to Instagram directly is for the accounts to be linked to a Facebook page. Yeah, the cooks don't really let us know why they made the recipe the way they did. We just take the information that we can and yeah, and apply it. So unfortunately, that's why Facebook personal profiles aren't supported, and Instagram accounts, you can connect a personal Instagram account, but yes, automatic publishing would not be supported unless it's a professional account and linked to a Facebook page. And yeah, again, same API for everybody. So it's not, it would be the same with any third-party app. All right, would love to see if there's any other questions before we dive into a quick demo into Planable, kind of to show you what we talked about and how we, how we made analytics come to life in Planable. And as Nick mentioned, we're already planning to improve it, and I guess we'll talk about it as I go through the demo. I don't see any questions coming up right now, but you have the section available there, so you can put in your question and we'll go through them afterwards. All right, so let me take over sharing the screen. Give me 1 second here. Okay, sorry. All right, I believe everybody can see my screen now. So as I mentioned, I wanted to give you a quick tour about on how analytics looks like and works like in Planable. Now we currently support analytics for Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn with more platforms to come soon. I think Nick sort of gave a bit of insight with TikTok. So that's definitely one of the platforms that we plan to integrate in terms of analytics. You can already schedule content for TikTok in Planable. So first of all, you're going to find the analytics view right here next to the other view. So for those that are already using Planable, it's right there where you usually switch, to the calendar or grid view and so on. Now, when you're here, you're going to notice, firsthand a couple of things. So you can choose the time period. So this is what Nick also was talking about. We get historical data up to a certain point, and that depends per platform. But you can change the time that you're looking for data. So we have some predefined intervals, but you can obviously just put a custom range within that limit that we have access to data. Now for Facebook, I think it's one of the most generous ones. So as Nick mentioned, you can go like almost a year, actually a year in the past, so you can play around with that. Now, at the very top, the first thing that we're looking at is a couple of overall metrics for your page. You can see here the evolution, increasing or decreasing. And this is a question we get pretty often, which is, compared to what? Like, what is this growth compared to? And this is and I really try to find an easy way to explain this. I almost nailed it once, but this is compared to the similar interval of time, the previous interval of time. So if I have last quarter here, so that's 3 months, this is compared to the previous 3 months to the time I have selected here. If I would have 7 days selected, then it would compare to the previous 7 days, 30 days, and so on. So it's always going to compare to the same amount of time frame. I think that was the winning explanation. So yeah, and then you can obviously just click on each of the metrics and you can see how it evolves, again, across all the time period that you have selected. So you can go ahead and play around with each of them. And you can also, this little info button, which I know is not something a lot of people read, but especially in this case, because we talked about earlier how engagement can be calculated differently from platform to from tool to tool. So yeah, this is a place where you can get a bit more information of how these are calculated in Planable specifically, so you know exactly what we're looking at. Then if we scroll next, we have our top performing content. So we have top 3 posts that you can see right here. Again, remember that little info can give you a bit more context. And right now we have it based on impressions and engagement. So you can toggle between, you can see the posts can actually be different. Sometimes they can be the same, really depends on, how well they're doing. And one thing, sorry, I just moving back for a second, these metrics also will differ from platform to platform, like LinkedIn and Instagram have a bit of different metrics. So you'll always see the platform specific metrics. And then at the very bottom, you have all of your content. So you can see here, you can scroll and see all of your posts. And then you have different metrics that we're looking at. You can actually decide like how to order them. Do you want to order like which ones have the biggest, the most impressions, most engagement, reactions, comments, and so on. And then if you have different types of content, like you have posts and reels, I don't believe we have here as an example, but if you have, if you post a different types of content, you can toggle between them if you want to focus on one specific format. And then obviously the last thing is that when you open up a post, let's take this. If there's any Swifties here, maybe you'll appreciate the post, but you can see all the data for the post on the right side of your content. So here you have the full breakdown of the post. It's right here. If you open up a post and you're maybe in the feedback section, you can also access it anytime by clicking on the analytics. And as I mentioned, we try to keep it very simple and neat and easy to see so that it's easy for users, no matter how much data you have, to kind of go through it easily. And then you can also create a report from the data. Again, here you can kind of play around with the period that you're interested in, and then you can preview your report. It also allows you to either download it as a PDF or actually just creating a share link that is available to anybody who has access to it. So they don't have to be a Planable user. It can be accessed by absolutely anybody. So this is pretty much how Planable Analytics looks like. As we mentioned, this is sort of the first step into this, where you have a lot of ideas to develop this further. And if you have any suggestions or things you'd like to see, we'd love to hear them. As long as they're on the menu, we'll do our best to get them. But yeah, I think there's a couple of questions I want to quickly go over. Okay, so wow, a lot of questions. Okay, so I'll start, I guess, from bottom to top. Is there any way to download the report in a CSV file so that you can then upload it into Data Studio? I believe right now it's only PDF, but Nick, I don't know if we have any plans to bring CSV as well.
Yeah, it's only PDF for now, but definitely CSV export is on our roadmap as well.
Perfect. All right. So we're gonna be working on that, and we'll be letting you know. It's great. I'm gonna be, all of these questions are saved, and I'll be able to also reach out directly for those that are interested in some of the features that we're talking about. How long do share links stay available? That is actually a great question. I'm honestly not sure if there's a expiration date. Nick, what do you know if there's an amount of time that they're available, or since you created, they can be accessed at any time?
They are available indefinitely as long as you have the page connected in Planable, right? Yeah, we don't remove them or we don't limit them in any way.
Perfect. All right. So yeah, once you create it, it's going to be available there, unless obviously the page is no longer in Planable. So then it won't be useful anymore. We got another sort of thumbs up for CSV. So Sarah as well will make sure to keep you in the loop on that. Page, but okay, sorry, just going through them. Sorry if I'm a bit slower. Why are some numbers highlighted in the all post section? Oh, that's a great question. Let me come here. So I'm guessing we're talking about this, the blue highlight. And I hope I got this right. And Nick, definitely let me know if I'm mistaken, but I believe the highlighted numbers are, so for the post that has the most engagement, it's going to be highlighted. Is that right? Or
Yes, yes. So
yes.
you can easily spot basically bigger numbers in the table. We actually initially wanted to add a fire emoji or something, so you know like what's on fire in this table. So yeah, it's basically the biggest number.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. So
the
it's an easy way to
most
kind of
engaged, yeah, most engaging content and the most impressions or the most reactions usually is the outliers, right?
yeah, exactly. So yeah, as you can see, like this post has the most impressions. So you can, as I mentioned, kind of sort them by that. But if you're just kind of looking, quickly, let's go by places we don't have. If you just want to kind of quickly see what stands out, that's why we decided to highlight those numbers. Okay, there's a question about when will X analytics be added to Planable. And as far as I know, we don't have a clear timeline on that. We're currently doing TikTok, I think, is one of the next platforms that is coming
Yeah.
up. And yeah, X is somewhere on the roadmap. Ideally, we obviously would like to have analytics for all the platforms, but again, not as much in our control. But yeah, we'll keep things updated. I'll put a link to our roadmap in a couple of minutes in the chat, so you guys can also upvote for what's interesting for you. And Nick, can you share some of the features that are coming next on analytics? I believe we mentioned maybe downloading CSV, maybe TikTok analytics, anything else that we're planning in the next couple of months?
Yeah, there's a lot of exciting stuff. I mean, what we're currently working on. So we want to add more data, right? So currently we just have the basic metrics, but we want to add audience insights and the best time to post and some more insights, and then maybe at some point couple this insights, that we get from the platform with AI, right? And show you some personalized insights about your content, what's performing best, and also we want to bring more integrations, right? So we currently working on TikTok, and hopefully that's going to be available soon. Also, we'll work soon on aggregated analytics, so you can see basically data from all platforms in a single chart. So you can see how different platforms perform, right, alongside, right, how is TikTok compared to Instagram, what's the numbers like, and how do they compare, and also exporting, CSV exporting, maybe also presentation exporting in a PPT format or something like that. We want to
Yeah.
improve also the reports themselves. So we, as a collaboration tool, we also want to enable comments on reports, so you can before sharing the reports with someone, so you can add a bit of context, some some interpretation of the data somehow, yeah. So a lot of exciting stuff. We're just getting started with analytics. We've started building it recently, but yeah, we have a full roadmap with a lot of exciting stuff.
Yeah, so we're very excited about this. As you can imagine, it's been one of the bigger projects that our team has been working on, and we can't wait to develop more and more. I'll share the roadmap right now, and I'll create a different idea, sort of a different category for each of the platforms that we have analytics that we don't have right now, so that you can easily upload them right there. All right. I know there's some questions that are a bit off topic, some about TikTok and how far along you can schedule. I've taken them down, and if it's okay, I'll just reach back to you over email to kind of discuss that more in private. So we can have all that conversation. I just put my email as well into the chat. Guys, you can reach out to me with any questions you might have. Happy to assist. But yeah, I hope this was helpful. We really loved your questions. We really loved your suggestions and ideas. We can't wait to go back to the drawing board. The team is already working on some of the features that Nick mentioned. We're also excited to see, what the menus are going to get updated with in the future. But yeah, we hope this was helpful. We hope it gave you a bit more insight of what we're working with and why there are some limitations of what we can and cannot do. If you've been here for the other sessions as well, I hope it really helped you grasp analytics and data and be more confident in how to navigate them day in and day out. And yeah, it was really lovely chatting with everybody. We'll be sending over the recording, and yeah, thanks everybody. Thank you, Nick, so much for your time and for sharing the insights that you handle each day, and for translating it to us people that don't really work with data and code and APIs. And I think you really made it very easy for everybody to grasp the concept. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a lovely rest of your morning, evening. And yeah, hope to see you at the next webinars. Bye.
Goodbye.